The appearance of the Bab, the forerunner, and Baha'u'llah, the prophet founder of the Baha'i faith, fulfilled all the prophecies regarding the coming of two great beings in the end times. They even tells us where they are coming from and where they are going. They say they will come from the east, going to the Holy Land, that is the east of Jerusalem. They will come from Assyria, going to the Holy Land. Assyria is the area where Iran and Iraq are today. They even tells us where they will be raised up at. Daniel 8 verse 2 states, Elam will be the place of the vision. Jeremiah 49 verse 38, I will set my throne in Elam. Elam is the ancient name of Persia. They even tells us the name the Lord of hosts will be known. Daniel 12 verse 1 states, I will raise up in the end time Michael, the chief prince in Persia. Ezekiel 1 verse 28, I will confirm things in the end time with Michael the prince. And Daniel 12 verse 7, I will uphold things in the end time with Michael the prince. Michael, translated into English, is one who looks like God. In other way of saying it, the glory of God. All these were fulfilled in His Holiness Baha'u'llah, whose name means the glory of God. He was born and raised in Elam. As well as in Elam is where his forerunner, His Holiness the Bab, was also born and raised. The Bab declared his mission on the 23rd of May 1844 in Shiraz, Elam, Persia. The declaration of the Bab in 1844 marks the end of the Adamic cycle and the beginning of the everlasting cycle, the Baha'i cycle, that will last 500,000 years. Muhammad was considered to be the seal of the prophets, meaning the last prophet of the Adamic cycle. The Adamic cycle started 6,000 years ago and ended in 1844 in a declaration of the Bab and the beginning of the everlasting cycle, the Baha'i cycle that will last 500,000 years. The Bab said he comes to prepare the way for the coming of him whom God shall make manifest, a reference to Baha'u'llah. He said he will come quickly after him. He was executed by a firing squad of 750 rifles at a public square in Tabriz on the 9th of July 1850. He was 31 years old, and just 2 years after his martyrdom, His Holiness Baha'u'llah received this revelation in a Siyachal, the Black Pit, an underground dungeon where he was incarcerated in Tehran, Elam, Persia, in 1852. And later on, Baha'u'llah declared his mission in Babylon, Baghdad, Iraq, where he was exiled to by the Persian authorities in the garden of Ridvan by the Tigris River, a festival that is commemorated by the Baha'is of the world as the festival of Ridvan for 12 days from the 21st of April to the 2nd of May in 1863. And tonight, after sunset, the Baha'is of the world will commemorate the beginning of that most great festival, the festival of Ridvan. Have a great commemoration of the festival of Ridvan. Now Babylon is mentioned in the Holy Bible as a holy place. In Matthew 24, it tells the story of Christ on Mount Olive, when the apostle came to him in private and asked him, "Tell us, when are these things be? What are the signs of your coming and the end of the world?" And in his answer, he gave 3 promises. And one of these promises is when mankind see the abomination, desolation spoken by Daniel the prophet that stands in the holy place. That holy place mentioned here is Babylon. When Daniel had his vision, he was in Babylon. You might ask, how was the prophet of Israel end up to be in Babylon? King Nebuchadnezzar of Babylon and the Babylonians invaded Israel about 600 years before Christ, or year 586 BC to be precise. And they exiled most, if not all, of the Israelites to Babylon. That is how Prophet Daniel ended up to be in Babylon. All Daniel's vision happened while he was in Babylon. Babylon was made holy by the footsteps and the presence there for 10 years of the Lord of hosts, His Holiness Baha'u'llah, when he was exiled there by the Persian authorities. Babylon was made holy is where Baha'u'llah declared his mission in the Garden of Ridvan by the Tigris River, a festival that is commemorated by the Baha'u'llah World Festival of Ridvan on the 9th for 12 days from the 21st of April to the 2nd of May in 1863. Baha'u'llah was exiled further by the Sultan of the Ottoman Empire, first to the fortified city of Constantinople, then to Adrianople, and finally to the fortified city of Akka in Haifa, Israel. Akka is also mentioned in Holy Scriptures, like in Hosea chapter 2 state, "We have made the valley of Akka as for a door of hope." In the Islamic Holy Scriptures state, "Blessed is he that visited Akka, and blessed is he that visited the prisoner of Akka." In Baha'u'llah's journey to the Holy Land, it fulfills one of the prophecies of the Bible, which state that the journey of the Lord of Hosts to the Holy Land, in the journey of the Lord of Hosts to the Holy Land, he would go from mountain to mountain, from rivers to rivers, from sea to sea, and from fortified city to fortified city. This was literally fulfilled on Baha'u'llah's journey to the Holy Land by his exile. He went from Kurdistan Mountain in Babylon, Iraq, to Mount Carmel in the Holy Land, from the Tigris River in Babylon, Iraq, to the Euphrates rivers in the Holy Land, from the Caspian Sea to the Mediterranean and the Sea of Galilee in the Holy Land, and from the fortified city of Constantinople to the fortified city of Akka in the Holy Land. Baha'u'llah arrived there in 1868, and he proclaimed his mission to the world when he wrote to all kings and rulers of the world at the time. These rulers are Tsar Alexander II of Russia, Napoleon III of France, William III of Germany, Her Majesty Queen Victoria of England, Nasiruddin Shah of Persia, Sultan Abdul Aziz of the Ottoman Empire in Turkey, Pope Pius IX of the Vatican, President of the Great Republic of the West, that is President of the United States of America, concourse of bishops, ecclesiastical authorities, and leaders of governments and religions, and much, much more. These leaders represented the whole world at the time, for some of them have sovereignties over so many countries and vast sections of land, like the Ottoman Empire, the British Commonwealth, to name just two. In Baha'u'llah's letter to these world leaders, he stated that the all-knowing physician has his finger on the pulse of mankind. He perceiveth the disease and prescribeth in his unerring wisdom the remedy. One of these diseases is religious fanaticism and hatred as a world-devouring fire, whose violence none can quench. The hand of divine power can alone deliver mankind from this desolating affliction. And for the remedy, it is for them, these world leaders, to put aside their differences and come together in unity and peace and harmony. Unfortunately for the world, all of these leaders except one ignore the all-knowing physician's exhortation. Except one, except Queen Victoria of England. In her response to Baha'u'llah's tablets to Her Majesty, she wrote, "If this is of God, it will endure. If not, it do no harm." It definitely endure. And it did no harm to humanity. In fact, it heightened humanity's spiritualities and it advanced its civilization. Baha'u'llah's sun was set there in 1892, 40 years exactly since the inception of his faith in a Siyar, the black pit, an underground dungeon where he was incarcerated in Tehran, Iran, Persia in 1852. And it fulfilled one other prophecies of the Bible which state that the duration of the mission of the Lord of hosts on earth will be the same as the time of the Exodus. The Exodus is the time when Moses brought the children of Israel from under the rule of the Pharaoh of Egypt, and took them to the promised land, which was known in those days as Canaan. And that journey took them 40 years. Baha'u'llah was interred in Baji, the plain of Sharon in the vicinity of Mount Carmel, the mountain that the Israeli prophets of old said it will be beautified and sanctified and glorified with the footsteps of the Lord of hosts in the end time. This was literally fulfilled when His Holiness Baha'u'llah walked on Mount Carmel and showed the center of the covenant, His Holiness Abdu'l-Baha, the spot on the mountain to build the shrine of his forerunner, His Holiness the Bab, and where he is to be interred when his holy remains is brought over to the Holy Land from Persia, where he was executed in 1850. On Mount Carmel is where the headquarters of his faith, the Baha'i faith, is located. On Mount Carmel is where the seat of the Universal House of Justice, the highest administrative body of the Baha'i faith, is situated. All the buildings on Mount Carmel, including the seat of the Universal House of Justice, were built in the formation of an ark, as the Ark of the Covenant. On Mount Carmel is where Baha'u'llah's law is flowing down from to feed his flock and to educate all mankind. You can see how clear it is for all these prophecies to be fulfilled on His Holiness the Bab and His Holiness Baha'u'llah. Both were born and raised in Elam, and both are buried in Holy Land on Mount Carmel and in Baji, the plain of Sharon in vicinity of Mount Carmel. On Mount Carmel is where the headquarters of the Baha'i faith is situated. Thank you, and I wish you well. Whaftailava manuela whafofo maimara whasausaunga Samoa, soifua.